ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome. You are entering the Stone Zone, and we've got one big, beautiful show for you today. Well, the audio recording of Joe Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur, who was investigating Biden for his retention of classified documents that he was never entitled to hold on to either as a U.S. Senator or as Vice President. Only a president is allowed to hold on to classified documents, retain them under the Presidential Documents Act, has now finally been released. Back during the election, you may recall, they released a transcript of that interview, but they refused to release the actual audio. Richard Nixon tried that in Watergate when it was learned that he had taped his conversations in the White House. He released a full transcript, but the media, the courts, the Congress insisted that they have the actual audio tapes. The courts ultimately ruled that Nixon must release them. He did, and it cost him his presidency. Unfortunately, the media, the Democrats, the Congress didn't demand that Joe Biden release the actual audio tapes of his interview. Perhaps if they had, he might have dropped out of the race for president earlier. The audios recorded in October 2023 show Biden struggling to make sense, struggling to answer simple questions about the date of Trump's election, the date of his own son's death. His handlers insisted that it was her who heartlessly raised the questions of Beau Biden's passing, when we now know it was Biden himself who raised those questions. The real disgrace here is the fact that being in American politics for 50 years and having a lot of friends in both parties, although that may be hard to believe, everyone knew, every major Democrat I knew, every major reporter I knew, every one of them knew that Joe Biden was slipping mentally. He was slipping mentally during the 2020 election. He was not already there. By the end of his run, he was literally a vegetable. I think he was a rutabaga, actually. But let's listen to these Democrats covering for Joe Biden.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with it.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
I can testify because I've been working very closely with this president for the past 2 years. I've been knowing him for 30 years. And I'm telling you, this guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
Joe Biden has vision. He has knowledge. He has a strategic thinker.
The president is focused. He's detail-oriented. He's always thinking about the big picture.
He is engaging. He is capable. He has an incredible record as president.
And I'm often with him on foreign trips. He's at the top of his game.
So he has a vision. He has knowledge. He has judgment. He has a strategic thinking.
I met with the president, 5 or 6 weeks ago, and he seemed fine to me.
I have complete confidence in the president. I have watched him expertly guide meetings of staff and cabinet members. I could not have more confidence in the president.
I would just tell you that I meet frequently with the president, and every single time I meet with him, he is just fine.
But he is, again, knowledgeable, wise.
Incredibly sharp, incredibly probing, incredible command of the details.
He is sharp. He is on top of things.
There is nothing to these challenges, these suggestions that somehow he's not sharp and he's not capable.
We see Joe Biden up close. We know how attuned he is to the issue.
And you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has.
I say his age is an asset.
Aha!
He's wise.
Yes, he's wise. He has wisdom. He has experience.
And his experience, because of his age and his wisdom, has been invaluable to this country.
A lot of countries, people who've been in office a longer period of time are praised for their wisdom.
I have seen a lot of 72-year-olds not as capable as this 80-year-old.
It is hard for us to keep up with this president.
His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. He's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
And this kind of sense that he's not ready for this job is just a bucket of BS that's so deep, your boots will get stuck in.
There you have it. Lie after lie after lie after lie. They ask us to believe what they say rather than we saw with our own minds. The fact that he would sometimes read the stage directions from his teleprompter, that he was constantly falling down, that he didn't know which way to exit the stage, that he could very, very rarely finish a thought, never mind a sentence, which a number of neurologists told me was a classic sign of the onset of senile dementia. I said so at the time. It is highly questionable now as to who was it who signed all of these pardons. Last December, the Democrats forged Joe Biden's signature, commuting over 1,500 sentences for convicts, including a number of convicted murderers. It was the single largest day act of commutations and pardons in American history. I was pardoned by President Donald Trump because I was subjected to a Soviet-style witch hunt in which the judge withheld exculpatory evidence from my defense attorneys, in which the jury forewoman lied during jury selection and during the trial, claiming she never heard of me, didn't know who I was, knew nothing about the case in which she had been selected as a juror, only to learn that for the 19 months prior to my trial, she had been attacking me and President Trump by name on her Twitter and her Facebook pages, but had those on a private setting so they could not be seen during the time that each prospective juror was determined in terms of their fitness to serve. So the auto pen now is emerging as a major issue. The pardons Joe Biden signed for his cronies, for example, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Liz Cheney, and others, not to mention Dr. Fauci, those are likely signed by auto pen, but the ones that are more disturbing to me are those for the hardened criminals that he signed. These make no sense at all. So, for example, Terrence Richardson and Ferone Claiborne, they were convicted of the murder of a Sussex County, New Jersey police officer. They never expressed any remorse. Both pardoned. Adrian Peeler was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and drug charges relating to the killing of Karen Clark and her 8-year-old son, Leroy B.J. Brown. Pardoned. Leonard Peltier was convicted of murdering 2 FBI agents. Pardoned. Brandon Council was convicted of murdering 2 women, Katie Skeen and Donna Major. Pardoned. David Barron, convicted of murder in a drug-related conspiracy case. Pardoned. Charles Jones, convicted of murder during an armed robbery. Pardoned. William Conahan, convicted of racketeering tied to a Cash for Kids scheme, sending juveniles to a for-profit jail for kickbacks, with some cases involving violent offenses. Pardoned. LaRon Graham was convicted of leading a drug conspiracy involving fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin, with prior guilty pleas to charges of coercing young women into sex work through violent means, including brutally beating victims on a near daily basis. Pardoned. James Edward Jones, convicted of murder in a drug-related conspiracy case involving a shooting during a turf dispute. Pardoned. James Barber, convicted of murder in 2001 for the killing of Dorothy Epps in Alabama during an armed robbery. Pardoned. Kenneth Williams, convicted of murder for hire, killing Cecil Boren during an escape from an Arkansas prison where he was serving a life sentence for a prior murder. Pardoned. Robin Peoples, convicted of drug trafficking and firearms possession, with charges tied to a violent drug conspiracy involving at least one murder. Pardoned. Ronald Reed, convicted of murder for the killing of a police officer in Minnesota. Once again, pardoned. So who was wielding the auto pen? We'll be right back, and we'll be talking more about Pengate, as I call it. You're listening to The Stone Zone. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at Vanta.com.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We were talking before the break about Joe Biden's pardons, at least those signed with an auto pen. This list continues. James Edward Jones, convicted of murder for a drug-related conspiracy case involved during a shooting during a turf dispute. James Barber, convicted of murder in 2001 for killing a woman during a robbery in Alabama. Kenneth Williams, convicted of murder for killing Cecil Boren during a prison escape. Ronald Reed, convicted of murder for the killing of a police officer in Minnesota during a bank robbery. William Egbert, convicted of murder for killing a rival drug dealer in a turf dispute in Ohio. This list goes on and on, but what is, I think, significant about them is that none of these people expressed remorse. There does not also seem to be any record of them having appealed for a pardon, petitioned for a pardon. Back in March, the Oversight Project gathered every document they could find with Biden's auto pen signature, discovered every one of his pardons used the exact same auto pen signature, except for the announcement that he was dropping out of the election and the actual signature on Hunter Biden's pardon. President Trump has said that Biden's auto pen pardons are both null and void, and he said so very strongly in a statement on social. Whoever had control of this auto pen has created the biggest scandal. Neera Tandon and Steve Nelson appear to be the two Biden aides reportedly who had the authority to unilaterally determine what documents would be robo-signed. Special prosecutor may have to be assigned to look into this comprehensive scandal. Meanwhile, Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered the Pentagon to launch a comprehensive review into the catastrophic 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal. The Secretary of Defense has instructed the Pentagon to open this review. President Joe Biden, you will remember, removed troops from Afghanistan in 2021, following up on an existing plan from the first Trump administration in 2020 with Taliban leaders to end the war in that region. Unlike the Trump plan, however, Biden did not use the comprehensive drone technology that we had that would have pinned the Taliban down, allowing them to take control literally of billions of dollars worth of sophisticated military equipment. Could have destroyed that equipment as another option, but President Biden did not do so. Up until Auto Pen Gate, this could be the greatest single scandal in U.S. history. Democrat Eric Swalwell, you remember him, he was the one who was penetrating a Chinese communist spy who was penetrating his office. He was a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Even after his dalliance with a red Chinese spy became public, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi allowed him to continue to have access to classified documents. He said yesterday that the charge indictment of McIver had crossed a line, and he issued a warning saying that members would continue to show up at these ICE facilities. Now, Democrats' argument that they have oversight authority, it's not clear that that's true, that their oversight authority has to be connoted by the Oversight Committee, but put that legal argument aside. No member of Congress has the right to physically assault any law enforcement officer. McIver, of course, claims the charges are purely political. In other words, I guess she says it's okay for her to physically assault a law enforcement officer. Tom Homan, I saw him on Fox last night. He won't stand for it. Anyone who attacks a law enforcement official or an ICE official is going to find themselves prosecuted. We're going to be following this story very closely. The Supreme Court has now allowed the Trump administration by a vote of 8-1 to end the temporary protected status for 300,000 migrants who came to the United States from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, or Venezuela. So the court's efforts to negate the results of the last election appear to be at an end, and the deportation of dangerous and violent illegals can continue. Coming up in the Stone Zone, we're going to talk to Sam Antar. Sam Antar is the fraud investigator who uncovered the daisy chain of mortgage fraud by Attorney General Letitia James, who has now been referred to the U.S. Justice Department for prosecution. My sources tell me that this is the least of Letitia James' problems, that the U.S. Justice Department is now investigating the fact that she was aware of the fact that Standard Chartered Bank in New York was violating Iran sanctions to the tune of millions of dollars, but she looked at the other way and did nothing. You can look for that news to break here shortly. Also, there is an additional claim now of a woman who has come forward claiming that Attorney General Letitia James covered up sexual harassment of this woman by her chief of staff, as well as sexual assault. The woman in question has now passed 2 polygraph tests. I believe you'll be hearing more about this in the days ahead as well. So Letitia James is about to learn, as she put it so eloquently, no person is above the law. And that includes Letitia James. Again, when we come back, Sam Antar with whitecollarfraud.com is going to lay out the case against Letitia James regarding mortgage fraud and some of his newest revelations. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial, because we'll be right back in the Stone Zone in just a few minutes.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. Joining us now is Sam Antar. Sam Antar is a fraud investigator. He is the editor and publisher of whitecollarfraud.com. His career has had an interesting trajectory. He himself was once convicted in one of the largest security frauds in American history, paid his debts to society, and after getting out of prison, has dedicated his life to helping law firms, governments, and others ferret out corruption in both public and private entities. He's one of the sharpest investigators and analysts I have ever met. You should check out his website, whitecollarfraud.com. It was Sam Antar and another documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist, Joel Gilbert, who uncovered an indisputable series of acts of mortgage fraud by New York Attorney General Letitia James. Letitia says it's all politics. There's nothing here to see. Let's listen to Letitia James.
I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you.
That sounds to me like a woman who's in full panic. Listen to her here.
It's that stone of hope that gives me a fire in my belly each and every morning. It's that stone of hope that allows me to wake up and to stand to Donald Trump and to say, Donald Trump, I'm not afraid of you.
I smell panic is what I smell, because she's guilty and she knows she's guilty. The documents prove he's guilty. These are not allegations. These are not claims. These are not assertions. This is whole solid documentation. These are sworn documents. Sam, if I did what you have proven she did, well, they'd be charging me. So, Sam, tell us about this pattern of fraud that you have detected.
Okay. What happens is she was buying a property in Norfolk, West Virginia with her niece. And the property was purchased as joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. When she originally was purchasing the property, she claims, she shows an email whereby she did not want the property to be her primary residence. That was on August 2nd or 3rd, 2023. But 14 days later, she signs a power of attorney saying that she intends to occupy the premises with her niece as their primary residence. And that document was witnessed by 2 key people in her office. One who happens to be the Deputy Attorney General of New York. The mortgage eventually closes based upon the power of attorney that she's going to occupy the property, but she never occupies the property. The other item is that this was done a few weeks before the Trump trial, where she's suing Donald Trump for mortgage fraud. So when she signs that power of attorney, she claims it was a mistake. So she never intended to occupy in Virginia. She claims, okay, if that's the case then, okay, why wasn't the loan corrected? Why wasn't the rate reset higher? Why wasn't anything fixed? Because she had the benefits of a loan that was underwritten based upon the fact that she was going to occupy the property with a niece. And she didn't. So it's not a mistake.
So just to clarify this, by claiming that the property would be owner-occupied by she and her niece, not either, but both. She got a lower mortgage rate. Is that correct?
That is correct. Also, probably lower insurance. But that's another thing. So she's saying it's a mistake. If it's a mistake, then why wasn't it corrected? Why was the mortgage underwritten based upon her sworn statement, which was a sworn power of attorney, which said that she was going to occupy the property?
All right.
That is her main problem. The other problem,
and as you have pointed out, if she made the Virginia property her principal residence, which she signed under oath a power of attorney saying she would do, she would be legally ineligible to be the Attorney General of New York. And I checked the law. Immediately upon her declaring residency in another state, the seat would be vacated. And then, of course, if she signed a document saying she would move and she didn't, well, then she is guilty of mortgage fraud. Continue.
Okay. Now, her lawyer, after the Justice Department referral, in other words, the FHFA, the Federal Housing Finance Administration, referred this case to the Justice Department, her lawyer wrote a letter of response saying that there was another document that was filed after the power of attorney that was on August 17th. So you have an email that says that she's not going to occupy it. I'm sorry, she has an email saying she's not going to occupy it on August 2nd, August 3rd. She has on August 17th the power of attorney that contradicts the email. And then he has this third document that he refers to that also says that she's not going to occupy the property after she said she was going to occupy the property. However, when he did the letter to the DOJ, that third document, which was subsequent to the power of attorney, he points to the email that was dated before the power of attorney. In other words, the claim that there was another subsequent document, that document never existed. In fact, she doesn't even refer to it when she did that power breakfast yesterday in her speech. In other words, that excuse now disappears. So Lowell's timeline is completely garbage. It is completely discredited, so to speak. But in any case, even if she signed a third document subsequent to the power of attorney that contradicts the power of attorney, it wouldn't matter because the mortgage is underwritten based on the power of attorney.
It is interesting to me that she claimed to have this document, which no one has ever seen, and the New York Times just wrote it as a fact, even though I doubt they've ever seen it because, well, it doesn't exist. Now, there's another issue, although I should point out the FBI Director Kash Patel has now confirmed his agents are actively investigating this mortgage fraud case and reporting directly to him and to Deputy Director Dan Bongino. There's also a credible report that a federal grand jury has been convened in Virginia to examine Letitia James' actions in this particular matter. Now there's a different issue, and that is her qualification earlier for a so-called HAMP loan, which is a loan of which you get a mortgage for an investment property. But as I understand it, it's an investment property that has to be 4 units and under rental properties, which she claimed. But didn't you and documentary filmmaker, investigative reporter Joel Gilbert visit that property so you could examine with your own eyes whether it was 4 units or 5?
We visited the property. Joel, first of all, let me just say this. Joel was the one that uncovered the HAMP fraud. We visited the property, and we saw that there was 5 doorbells, 1 for each apartment. Also, when I got the Con Ed records, there was 1 electric meter for each of the 5 apartments, plus a common area. And, of course, the certificate of occupancy, which is the ruling document, says it's 5 units. Now, right after that, somebody had filed a complaint with the Department of Building saying that the building is not in conformance with the certificate of occupancy. In other words, there's 4 units that she claims instead of 5 units that the certificate of occupancy says. Well, the buildings department went there and inspected it and said there's 5 units, everything is fine. In other words, they don't know that she's misrepresenting it as 4 units. So she's fried on that one too.
Once again, she's able to qualify for this mortgage rate based on a false statement. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Sam Antar. You can check out his reporting at whitecollarfraud.com. This is a perfect example of no person being above the law. That includes New York Attorney General Tish James. When we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that Tish and the New York Democrats think that you, the taxpayer, should pick up the tab for her legal defense, even though these actions have nothing to do with her official duties. We'll be right back with Sam Antar right here in the Stone Zone. So whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be right back in the zone.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you've heard that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. Talk about the law of unintended consequences. When the New York State Legislature amended a state law to extend the statute of limitations so a woman named E. Jean Carroll could accuse President Donald Trump of a sexual assault, little did they know that there would be subsequent sexual harassment and assault cases filed against Mayor Eric Adams, Governor Andrew Cuomo, and Senator Kevin Parker. Parker now says the law, which he co-sponsored, the amendment, is unconstitutional. How about that? Letitia James is trying to use this crucible to raise money. She has a new fundraising appeal out. She's going to need the money for her legal defense because it appears that New York State Republicans have blocked legislation in which Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York Democrats wanted the New York taxpayers to pay for Letitia James' legal defense, even though these actions, as outlined by Sam Antar here today in the Stone Zone, have nothing to do with her official duties. It has to do with her own personal conduct and I would say at this point, a 22-year span of 10 different mortgage applications, every single one of which has some material problem. And then, Sam, there's the question of her public filings. As an elected official, she has required public filings about her own finances, but sometimes she shows rent from these properties on her disclosures. Other years that disappears, then it reappears a year later. Her filings appear to me to be a mess, no?
Yes, that is correct. Take, for instance, every year she has to file an ethics form with the New York State Board of Elections. And that form has a financial statement that's attached to it. Now, how many assets she has, how many liabilities she has, certain things she doesn't have to disclose, but let's talk about what she has to disclose. Okay. She has 2 properties in Virginia. One is the one that she intended to make a primary residence that she didn't. That's the subject of a major fraud investigation by the DOJ. That property is nowhere to be found on her financial statements, and it's supposed to be there. The mortgage is nowhere to be found on her financial statements, and it's supposed to be there too. There's another Virginia property where the property is listed on her financial statements, but the mortgage that she took out when she bought the property is not listed on her financial statements, but there are 2 mortgages that are not in the property records that are listed on her financial statements. So in that property, she lists 2 mortgages that don't appear in the property records, and 1 mortgage that does appear in the property records is not on the financial disclosure. And then you have the Brooklyn property also that she has, where there's one property that she lists on her financial disclosures, it's nowhere to be found on any property databases.
She, of course, claims that this is all about retaliation. It's all about revenge. In all honesty, there's a great editorial in the New York Post as to what the delay is in Trump's appeal of the unprecedented prosecution of Donald Trump by Letitia James. Remember, she claimed that he inflated the value of his assets in order to get commercial real estate development loans, all of which were paid back on time and in full. In fact, those making the loans made $40 million in interest. Every one of them said that they would be willing to do business with them again. They, of course, were not permitted to testify at that rigged trial. I don't know a single lawyer who doesn't believe that I think it is a $580 million, judgment against be reversed. So, yes, there is lawfare. There is a politically motivated prosecution, but it isn't by Donald Trump. It is by Letitia James. I think that decision gets reversed, and I think it gets reversed soon, although I'm beginning to wonder what's taking so long. Also, one has to give credit to Bill Pulte, who is the chairman of the Federal Home Finance Agency. His investigators went out to confirm everything that Joel Gilbert has publicly reported. And by the way, if you go to whitecollarfraud.com, you can see that he links to all of the actual documents. So you have to take his word for it. You can see it right there in black and white. But upon finishing the investigation by FHFA, he sent a letter to the Department of Justice recommending criminal charges, and we now know that there is both an FBI investigation and a Virginia-based grand jury has been impaneled. Also, as I said earlier in the show, sources tell me that there is now a federal investigation into whether Letitia James, as well as the Biden Justice Department, looked the other way at a New York financial institution that was violating Iranian sanctions. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars. I expect that story to break any day now. Once again, she's going to claim this is retaliation or this is revenge. No, this is a rebalancing of the scales of justice so that we have one justice system, not two, and that all public officials are treated equally. In the end, Letitia James, she can go with the fiery rhetoric. I'm not afraid of no Donald Trump, no President Donald Trump. This woman is university educated, talking like a ghetto rat. This is, I guess, part of the idiom. It's not going to work. This is not a political prosecution. Again, you can go to the documents at whitecollarfraud.com and see that everything Sam Antar has discussed with us today is accurate. A final point here. We only have about 2 minutes. Sam, you also found that there was a lot of missing documentation regarding her state expense account, that she had used a charter service to fly on the taxpayer's dime, but there was no documentation about whether those flights were to go to political events. Tell us about that.
Six flights, $41,000, 3 to 4 of which we can identify that took place during political events. I sent out a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Law request, to both the New York State Attorney General's office and the New York State Controller's office. Now, the Controller's office gets back to me. There's no documents. I appeal. They say there's no documents. All they give me is a spreadsheet. I say, where's the contracts that are listed on the spreadsheet? Where are the contracts? There's no contracts. In other words, 0, 0, 0. Her office now needs an extra 2 months to accumulate the documents if they have the documents. Now, how can the controller of the state of New York not have any documents? Flight manifests, trip documents, nothing. 0 documents pertaining to these trips. It mind boggles me to think that they don't have the documents. Now, what's going to happen is all of these flights, they have to, the charter carrier has to keep records, and the feds are going to get it from the charter carrier when they continue their investigation. So this thing is going to get much more water. It's going to not just involve mortgage fraud. It's going to involve mail fraud with financial filings with New York State. It's going to also involve possible campaign funds, government theft of funds that she took from the government to pay for campaign funds. It's also, I've seen some articles about the sex abuse scandals that she covered up in her office. This lady is in for a long, long run in prison.
Well, remember, no person is above the law. All right, I'm going to thank our guest, Sam Antar. Urge you once again to check out his website, whitecollarfraud.com. And as for you out there listening to the Stone Zone, until we meet again, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?